University of Georgia police have identified a person of interest. Okay, who is being questioned at this time.
Now for what's trending in true crime. Students are heading back to campus at the University of Georgia in Athens as classes are resuming today. This after a nursing student was found dead last week. The body of Laken Riley, a 22-year-old student at the Augusta University College of Nursing, was discovered after she failed to return home after a run. A vigil for Riley will be held later today on campus. Laken's roommate posted a tribute to her over the weekend. Take a look.
You have it. You're lying. You're a bad liar. Swear. You.
Hey kids, this is your mom and her college roommate that she talks about all the time. Auntie Laken, TT Laken, TT Laken.
The suspect, this is him, 26-year-old Jose Ibarra. He's charged with multiple counts, including felony murder. He was denied bond on Saturday. Authorities say there is no evidence that Ibarra, who is, by the way, here illegally from Venezuela, knew Riley before her death. No evidence showing that he knew her, but was not here lawfully in the United States. And then during the press conference, law enforcement officials stated that the manner of death was blunt force trauma. The cause of death would be blunt force trauma. Now, what else might the autopsy results reveal? Was she sexually assaulted? That is perhaps the biggest question this morning in this case. Let's bring in our guest to talk about it now. Retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired criminal defense attorney Kirk Nurmi, and law enforcement expert Sunny Slaughter. Big welcome to you all. Thank you for being on the show today. Oh boy, this is a tough one. Beautiful young girl trying to do so much good in the world, a nursing student, and then she is murdered. Sunny, would you start us off, please? Your thoughts here, knowing that this guy didn't know her. Law enforcement has said this is a crime of opportunity that occurred here. Do you expect to see findings of sex assault in addition to the other homicide findings?
I do. Good morning, everyone. I do, Julie. I expect there to be some kind of way that law enforcement was able to quickly tie him to this particular case other than blunt trauma. So I'm thinking sexual assault. What was the crime of opportunity? Did he just see her? How did he know? Was he potentially watching her? Did she ever dismiss his advances? This is a horrific case. I am glad that they caught him quickly. So now we have a suspect, and now we need to find out why and what else he's been up to.
Isn't that the truth? Kirk Nurmi, to you next here. Ibarra's wife, her name is Laken Franco, 23 years old, spoke to the New York Post, said she's known him her whole life. He's a very calm guy. They were separated prior to the death of Laken Riley. They were married in order to join their asylum cases. How about that? That was the reason for the marriage. And when asked about the murder, according to the New York Post reporting, she said, quote, if he did, he has to pay for what he did, truly. Kirk, your thoughts on that and this whole situation, please.
Yeah, you know, it's hard for me to conceptualize or give any real meaning to what his wife or, you know, set-up wife has to say about him in this entire situation. But I think a lot of ado will be made about immigration status and, you know, asylum claims and what have you. And I think, you know, to focus on that is to dishonor the pain of Riley's family, right? I think Riley's family doesn't care any differently than the family in the Idaho 4s care. Death is death, tragedy is tragedy. And we go back to something that law enforcement said and something that Sunny touched on, the crime of opportunity. For too long, whether it's grade schools, high schools, middle schools, colleges, we've been blessed really to have these facilities be sanctuaries where things like this didn't happen. But that has changed now. And then what we need to do is work on minimizing the opportunities. And that's really where our focus should be in honoring the pain of these victims.
Absolutely. The focus is always on the victims on this show here, Kirk. Thank you for that, reiterating that. Let's go back to the sexual assault indications. There were some discussion from law enforcement saying that they're awaiting the autopsy findings, but there were some initial indications that show that perhaps there was a sex assault that went on here. Jennifer Coffindaffer, I want to ask you just about safety in general here. When we think about this young woman doing nothing wrong, going out for a jog, how many of us do that? And how many of us do it alone? Probably many people watching right now are horrified thinking, my goodness, how could this happen? Your thoughts as somebody who has many, many years of law enforcement experience and expertise. What do you say to the safety aspect of this, please?
Well, I tell you, in training, when I train civilians on safety, specifically to focus on women on college campuses, the number one thing I point out is run with someone, run with a dog, and if you can't do either, have your pepper spray on the ready and no earbuds in. It's just a situation where a woman in a wooded area by herself is so vulnerable. And in this case, my understanding is the apartment complex was close. I think he saw this as a complete point of opportunity and probably tried to sexually assault her, much like the Rachel Morin case, and then ended up killing her.
Oh my, it's just dreadful thinking about it. Our hearts go out to Laken Riley's family and loved ones. We'll leave it there for now. Thank you all for that. Let's turn to another case making headlines in Michigan. The brother of a special needs child who died of starvation will learn his sentence on the child abuse charges this morning.
What is your plea to count 1, child abuse in the first degree?
Guilty, Your Honor.
Has anyone promised you anything else beyond the matters recited here today to get you to plead guilty?
No, Your Honor.
Anyone threaten you to plead guilty?
No, Your Honor.
It's pleading guilty of your own free choice.
Yes, Your Honor.
Paul Ferguson pleaded guilty to first-degree child abuse in December. This stemmed, of course, from the mistreatment of his special needs brother, Timothy Ferguson, back in 2022. You'll remember his mother, Shonda Vander Ark, went on trial, was convicted, sentenced to spend the rest of her life in prison, and she was the one who was ordering her other son, Paul, there, the adult son, to carry out the abuse with Timothy. But he's an adult and can think for himself, and he did think enough that it would be wise to testify against his mother, and that's what he did at trial. He cooperated. He largely was the key to the case. Even though he was complicit, he helped get the conviction for the worst of the two. Now, what might be an appropriate sentence for him? Is it prison time? Is it probation? Is it a combination of the two? Let's bring back in our power panel. Kirk Nurmi, I want to start with you this time, please. Tapping into your lawyer experience, what do you think is appropriate for Paul?
Well, if I was the judge, this would be the kind of case that would keep me up at night because it is such a confounding question. I think the answers, though, to find with this would be in all the psychological evaluations, intellectual evaluations, what's really going on here. As you made the comment that he is an adult and he had the chance to think for himself. There was a certain point in time when that's true. But could you imagine what was his home life like being raised by her, right? And what faculties did he have? What mental, impediments did this man have? So those would be the focus. And I think certainly, prison might be appropriate, but I tell you the one thing that I think is going to be really appropriate is probation. I think a long term of probation is going to be needed for these issues to be worked out. For this man is to have any future, any productive future, he's going to need services that help him, enable him, and help him work through these mental health issues.
Right, Kirk, he's going to need lots of help. Sunny Slaughter, to you next, please. What do you think is appropriate for Paul?
So one of the things that I have discussed previously in working with behavioral health facilities is that this young man needs long-term behavioral health treatment. He needs inpatient treatment. So I agree with Kirk when it comes to housing him in a facility that is not necessarily locked down in terms of prison, but locked down in terms of services, which is necessary right away. And long term.
Right, Sunny, right. Yeah, he needs a long period of supervision. Yes, yes. Jennifer Coffindaffer, would you take us home on this issue, please?
Well, I have to agree with both Sunny and Kirk on this one. I think he was controlled, manipulated, emotionally abused by his mother. I mean, just to be forced into these situations of mistreatment of his little brother. But, Julie, he still is culpable in terms of his death. So I see a combination, and certainly I hope this judge provides for counseling even when, and I think he will go behind bars. I think that he needs to have extensive counseling, as the panel has said, before, during, and after incarceration.
Well said, Jennifer. Well said. I think the judge is going to give him a hybrid sentence of incarceration and probation as well. I'm with you. We'll see. His hearing is set for 8:30 a.m. this morning. We've got our eyes on the courtroom. We're going to go in there together live when this one begins. Great discussion. Thank you all. I've got to say goodbye to you, Kirk Nurmi. Thank you for everything. We'll see you soon. Jennifer's coming along for tipping the scales, and we will see Sunny in our next hour when Court TV Live begins. Right now, here's what's coming up next in our spotlight.
I think what you will ultimately see as this case is litigated is that this statute was something they pulled out of thin air and does not apply to the facts of this case.
Courtney Clenny's attorneys, the attorneys who are representing Courtney and her parents, are accusing the state of Florida of prosecutorial misconduct. They are joining us live on the show next to explain why. And we've got the latest on a brand new motion filed in the case involving defendant Karen Reed. Wait till you hear about this evidence. This is some newly released stuff that the grand jury heard when they decided to indict her for murder, but we haven't heard it until now. We'll break it down.